I think it makes me really, really sad that we have that. I know it's
very sad.
Yeah, so it's a very empowering thing. You okay?
Yeah, because you see so many women stuck in bad situations, and God forbid we haven't been in those, but when you know someone and they can't leave, it's awful.
Well, 1 in 3 women, right? Like we talk about that. 1 in 3 women will be assaulted in their lifetime.
Wow.
Which is an insane number.
Louisa Live.
Welcome back to Louisa Live. I'm your host, Louisa Asatryan, and I have a very special guest with me. Councilwoman and former Mayor Elen Asatryan serves as Glendale's first Armenian-American woman, first immigrant woman, and youngest woman elected to the City Council. A first-generation immigrant who moved from Armenia to Glendale at age 10. She has dedicated over 26 years to advancing public policy, advocacy, and community improvement and empowerment at the local, state, and federal levels. Beginning her civic engagement at just age 15, Asatryan built a career championing equality, affordability, and small businesses and access to essential services while leading impactful initiatives such as voter registration efforts that added over 50,000 new voters. A proud graduate of Glendale Public Schools and University of California, Los Angeles, Councilwoman Elen Asatryan remains driven by a deep commitment to public service and building a stronger future for generations to come.
Very serious, Louisa.
I know, right? I'm like, now that's out of the way. Welcome, Elen.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you so much. And you said that to me the first time I posted. You're like, oh my God, this is so you.
Yes, I love it. And I will also say that just seeing Armenian women rise and keep rising is like very exciting for me.
Yeah.
And I think each of us play a role in uplifting each other. And I always say like you're this like ray of sunshine. And so I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited for you and what the space will be for the community.
You know, it takes one to know one. You always support me, and we have so many stories to share and talk. And I'm just happy that you're here. You're so busy right now with so much going on that we'll talk about. You have done so much in your life, in your young years, and I just want people to know who Elen is without the title, without the great accolades, like at her core. And we'll get into a lot of the things you're working on now, politics, campaign, your life, Glendale. But, who is Elen?
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
I would say my best friends call me positive, joyful chaos. So
yeah.
I am, I would say I feel like because I've always been in politics and work has always been very heavy.
Right.
I like ease in my personal life. So some may say like she picks at everything, in work. I think because I do that in my workspace, I don't have space for that in my personal life. So I actually see myself as a very chill person.
Very calm.
Just like whatever, like I'm good with it. So it's, I think it's also the Libra in me. So like it's like striking a balance, between the two. But I also don't see any of this as work. I feel like it's part of who I am. It's always been. So, when sometimes people will say like, well, who are you outside of, it's not, for me, it's number one, it's not the title. I've never cared for titles. I think people make titles. Titles don't make people. And I really believe in that, and so I think I've always cared about impact. And the kind of impact each of us leave in our community, in our own circles and so forth. So even me running for office was about impact. It was never, sometimes I would even say that prior to me being elected, I actually worked on bigger, larger things on the state and federal level that had grander impact. So, while the role was different, it was, running for city council was like several steps down, but I wanted to serve my community in that capacity because I felt like our city needed that.
Yeah, and you first started to serve at the age of 15.
Well, my first, I campaigned, I volunteered on a campaign when I was 15 years old. The first time I showed up to a school board meeting to complain was when I was 15 years old.
I love that. To complain already. You started young.
Yeah, and they thought someone sent me because, they couldn't wrap their head around.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of discrimination issues against Armenian students where I was going at Toll Middle School and Hoover High School.
Yeah.
And so I went to speak about that. And then I kept showing up. The first time I showed up to a city council meeting was when I was 16. Because there was an elderly woman that would show up every Tuesday and tell Armenians to go back where they came from. I don't know why I was watching council meetings, but I was. And for me, just watching somebody spew hatred out into the community just bugged me.
Yeah, it bugged you like your soul.
Yeah, and so Rafi Manoukian, when he ran for city council in '99, he's somebody that to date I look up to, whose leadership I've very much valued and who has set the foundation for our community. I mean, this was a very different time in Glendale when they weren't hiring Armenians for positions other than your secretary and whatnot. And, I think just working on campaigns and registering thousands of Armenians to vote so we can have a voice at the ballot box and help elect, individuals from our own community. But I think growing up in that kind of Glendale, for me, it's also not wanting any other community to feel what I felt growing up here.
Wow.
Right? So you'll see me talk a lot about, how we need to be representative of everyone.
Right.
And we have one of the most diverse communities and all of that. And I think all of those things come from my own lived experiences of being an immigrant, of growing up in schools and in a community that I think right now, especially for those that hadn't really been around in the early 2000s, Glendale was a very different place. You're reaping the benefits of the people that helped set the foundation for you to have the rights you have. When you see the diversity in our police department, that was like Rafi and us at ANC working to put together a requirement that said, bilingual in Armenian and Korean, which then that year forced, they were qualified people that were applying, they were just not getting the job. There were 15 Armenian officers that were hired that year because of that, right? So then you see how that evolves into how you better represent communities just in general. So I don't know, all of these things have been my driving force, and sometimes people will be like, well, what do you, where do you get the energy? And I think the energy comes from just seeing the different needs in my community. I can't sit still and just watch something happen. That's the same thing for women too. I'm very unapologetic about owning space. And I think growing up in a political world where it was me and men, for me, it's really, really important how we open doors for women in every sphere. And not just women that, I know I'm a tough fighter, but for me, women's equality also means that you are soft-spoken and you still carry the weight in that room, right? And so you shouldn't have to be such a fighter to be treated equally. You shouldn't have to, and
you could be in your feminine energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the big misconceptions even about me, right? Where people try to put me in boxes of well, if she's this, then there's no way she's cooking and cleaning and whatever. And that's the biggest misconception about I think the world really tries to put people in boxes, and being just authentic in who you are, and not allowing that to dictate how you move in life is really important. And I see that even just as an elected official.
Yeah, and I think you do a great job of being authentic and real, though. And we talk about that.
Right.
Your Instagram, your live, the Glendale Council meetings, you are who you are. You do own a room with your, female energy. And I love it because it's so difficult. What's one thing you wish people knew about you that maybe just they had the wrong idea? You mentioned a few, but what's one thing you just want to share with people? Hey, I'm not like that. Not that you care because you're so confident, but
I mean, look, I think there's been like so many misconceptions about me, and really like driven, planned anti-Ellen campaigns that I think have tried to paint a different picture of me. But I've never given that space or light because I think my work speaks for itself. The way that I show up for our communities shows up for itself. And so sure, there's a lot of like reputational damage that has come with that, and it's very painful, especially I would never have an issue if I had a policy decision that I made that people disagreed on, but when it becomes personal, and then at the end of the day, I come from an immigrant Armenian family, right? My parents are seeing this, me having to have a conversation with my brother and cousins saying like, you cannot engage, we're not political, it's
Armenian families, imagine.
It makes me really, really sad just knowing that there are people out there that can sit behind a screen and write things and whatnot, not taking into consideration that you're hitting another human. This isn't like, there's so many different ways that you can say that. And I think just us as a community rising above that and being mindful, because this isn't exclusive to me. We were seeing that across the board in how people communicate, especially online. And sometimes I'll even see like folks that have like put really disgusting comments, right? And then they'll see me in public. They're like, "Oh, hi, nice to see you. Thanks so much for." I'm like,
did you just leave that? Like, did you delete it? Like,
but I also give space. I think anybody that does that, you can't be in a mentally well place. I would never speak that way, right? Like and I speak about that a lot because I think people in general have been through a lot since COVID, but our community, the Armenian community, has been through a lot, right? Like we had war, we had the loss of Artsakh, everything that's happening now. I mean, those are all very layered, heavy things that and then you have to continue living your life, right? So it's a lot of heavy things that just build up. People are not in a good financial place right now. The economy is not doing well. So I think part of being a leader also means like really giving grace and space to people for, for me, that's what a leader also means, being empathetic and being compassionate. And I think especially with elected officials, we were talking about this earlier. Even when I first ran, I would post things of like, me and my kids, my friend's kid on a skateboard, me crashing into a wall. And, I got a lot of comments from people saying like, what is this? This is so highly inappropriate and unprofessional, because people were so used to the like empty suits or the like if you're elected, then you have to be, I'm like, well, I'm also human. And there's something about everything that we bring to the dais. So if I'm somebody that loves the arts, that loves music, that loves going out, that loves outdoors, I love animals and I love kids, I bring all of that to policy.
You do, I see.
So it's whatever we are, whatever we care about, we bring that into policy and programming and the way that we are. So why would I hide that part of me from the public just so... That doesn't mean I can joke around and have a good time outside of a meeting, but then I will fight like hell for something I believe in on that dais. And those two things can coexist together, right? Like it doesn't...
the real and like just...
I mean, they're both the real me. They're just the different versions of me, right?
Or like different... merging it.
Yeah, and different places call for different things. And I take immense pride in being approachable.
You are.
And, just... I've never seen elected officials as people that you should just be like, distant from. We're supposed to be public servants. We are public servants, right? Like we're supposed to be, you're one with the people. You're not above them. So I think there's something to that. And I think my hope is that through showcasing that, you're also teaching the next generation of leaders that you don't have to fit into those boxes that the world said that you have to be in to be an elected official, And I wear the funny pins, the sarcastic pins too. And sometimes they get me in trouble, but I mean, what's life if you can't laugh at it, right? I mean, I saw some, I mean, I showed it to you, but I saw some things on social media today. There was like AI generated things like on me. And I was like, I could have either gotten really upset over what they were like trying to portray, or what I chose to do was laugh. I'm like, I'm so offended because I would never wear animal print. Yeah. You know, and that's, I mean, have a sense of humor.
I love that because you're not letting it get to you.
No,
like you could easily be like, who made that page?
Right. And then like have it, you know, ruin your day and all of that. And I'm just like, okay, well, that was funny. Louisa Live.
Louisa Live. When did you realize that you were meant to lead? Was it early 20s, teenager years? Like, when was that moment where you're like, oh my God, I have a voice and my voice matters and I can make changes?
It was Rafi Manukyan's
mentorship,
city council race.
Oh, and okay.
The reason I say that is because during that race, we went door to door registering thousands of Armenians to vote.
Wow.
And there's something really, really special about, you know, the grandma that doesn't know how to speak English, doesn't know the process, or the family that doesn't.
That's so relatable.
And you are the person that helps them have that voice.
Make decisions.
And then
stuff,
the morning after the elections, the LA Times article said the sleeping bear has woken, and it was referring to the Armenian community for the first time gaining a voice, right? And so you see the impact of that. But I was also like, just, I don't know, I've just always had it in me. You know, I recently ran into our principal from Hoover, you know, and he's supporting my campaign and whatnot. But, you know, I was a pain in the ass.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you have to be.
I would just show up, like I was very active on campus.
Tenacious.
But I would go on complaint time and say, like, you know, this dean acted this way. I've always been very sensitive about mistreatment of people in general. And then if he wouldn't do anything about it, then I would show up to a school board meeting, and then I would show up to the city council meeting. So I've just kind of had that in me, and I don't know where that comes from, but that's kind of.
Were you like that growing up at home? If something, let's say your mom and dad said, or like, Ellen, don't do this, did you speak up?
So apparently I was a very, very quiet child to a certain age.
Interesting.
But then they have stories like, I really wanted to go to music school, and we were living in Armenia at the time, and apparently I wasn't old enough to go. And our upstairs neighbor was one of the leads in the conservatory in Armenia. So without telling my parents, I went upstairs and said like, hey, can you like sluchas karas to guess, like, can you check my sluchas. And then she did, and I made her come down and like tell my parents that I'm old enough to like she can get me in and stuff. So, and it's the same thing, like when we went back to Armenia for the first time, I wasn't baptized. And without telling my parents, I went to the people that I wanted to be my like godparents, told them, hey, will you be my godparents? And then came back and then told my parents, hey, we're doing a baptism. And this is like as a teen. So I've always just kind of, I think, had that. Sometimes when I think back to just being like, my dad was, I think, always very proud, but he didn't want me to be involved in politics because I think he thought my personality was like, I take other people's difficulties as my own.
The empathy level, it's a lot.
You know, and he always felt like I was going to have a very hard life if I continued on this path, and that it was also like very male dominated, right? Like, you know, how hard would it be for me to break that ceiling? And for me, I've never, you know, there are people that run for office or get to a certain place because they have a plan. Like they'll plan out, like, in 3 years I'm going to run. I'm going to do. I have never had a plan for anything. I got involved in that first campaign. Then they came and approached me, asked me to work on the next campaign as a canvasser. Then the campaign after that, I was the field director. Then I was the volunteer coordinator. Then by the time I was 19, I was campaign manager.
Yeah.
And then I worked for a political consulting firm throughout my college years. And then Paul Krikorian, out of his house, me and Arin Ibranosian, when he was elected to the school board at the time. And then when I graduated, ANC Glendale was looking for an executive director. So I did that for 6.5 years, and then Western Region. So I actually tell people that I've actually never been on an interview.
Really?
On a job interview, which is something really special because I never did anything for my resume. And there's something about if you do something that you're so passionate about, you don't mind staying up until 3, 4 in the morning and grinding through it because you care about what you're working on. So I also always say that I've never really worked a day in my life, even though I'm known for sleeping for 2-3 hours a night.
And we just spoke about that in the green room. You're a night owl.
And I'm a morning person. I'm a night owl.
When do you sleep?
It varies. I think, my average is 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
I think working on campaigns builds you differently. And I've always said, no matter what, go work on a campaign, no matter what you want to do.
Yeah.
Because the chaos of a campaign, there's so many fires coming at once. There's so many different elements in play that number one, it gives you skill sets no matter where you end up, but it also builds this different kind of stamina that everything else after just falls off your shoulder. And that I think has a lot to do with, with everything that's come at me in the last 3.5 years. I mean, I used to be a consultant campaign manager for other candidates all this time, right? All the way to a U.S. Senate candidate. Wow. So, these things happen and I'm just okay, next, right? Yeah. And so there's something to that it's built my personality in that way where which also drives me crazy about government because government moves really slow and I'm used to this super fast pace.
Yeah. I feel like that has built you so much into your space right now as a woman with such a powerful voice. And you talk so much about breaking barriers. And recently when we were at a Glendale Sister City event, you said, it's so good when people say no. Remember, you're take the no and turn that into a yes and all of that. Right. And I want you to share moments in your life where someone said no to you, but that fueled you. And you're like, you know what? It's okay now when people say no, because I'm going to prove to you, that I could actually be that yes.
So I will say there's no proving for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
This isn't for me. I've never come from a place of I'm going to do something because I'm comparing myself to somebody else or I'm going to prove to you that I can. It's always driven by because I want to and there's a need. I think there's a need, right? And when we speak about getting the no, many of times you will see me introduce things on the dais. I'll tell you, one of my favorite things that I introduced was menstrual leave.
Oh, that's right. Let's talk about that. Absolutely.
And the reason that I love that, I introduced family leave, which would, our city employees didn't have, they had to add up their hours if they were pregnant, if they had a miscarriage and so forth, right? So for me, that part was really important. And then I also introduced menstrual leave because there's countries in this world that have them. I wanted us to explore it. I knew we weren't there, but it gave us 9 months to talk about periods. And it is a very uncomfortable thing for a male dominant. And I loved it because I'm very comfortable with it. So I, initially when I first started talking about it, I could see the muscles tense up.
Of the men
and then I'm look, this is biology. We're not talking about, it's fine, right? And then as the conversations were going before it came for a vote, it died a very quick death, right? But I was also strategic in how I brought it up. I brought up family leave and menstrual leave at the same time.
And when you say menstrual leave, clarify what that is. Is that different than a woman leaving if she's pregnant, like maternity or
no. I was trying for us. So for example, Spain and they have like when you're like for periods and menopause or whatever,
really?
For them to be able to, they
go home and rest because it's just
or they work remote. Like I wanted us to explore different options.
I love
for
that because it's so needed. There's women who have the worst cramps.
They do.
And they have to take medication because they can't leave the house.
Right.
Oh my God, Ellen, this is great.
So anyway, but I mean, I'm not giving up on it.
I know, but it's so needed because we're women and we go through that.
And we had looked initially that you're really looking at 10 days a year.
Yeah.
Because it's not the entire cycle. It's usually the first 1 or 2 days or whatnot. But just, and this is what I mean, that like I knew it wasn't going to pass. But it was important to start the conversation. Right.
Wow.
And by the 9th month, the people that were like feeling weird the first time I brought it up, I had department heads come up to me like, hey, I was thinking about your menstrual leave thing. And these are like, men now talking about like how they become more supportive as leaders in their. So sometimes it's not even just the policy, but how you start breaking down barriers in conversations and normalizing things that are real and like impacting your employees, your community,
your everyday life.
Yeah, and same thing with like domestic violence, right? Like I'm very, very passionate about that. And people, this is not a Ellen pet project. This is women and girls in our community that are in situations that are dire, that are not healthy.
Wow.
And shame on us as leaders if you know that that's happening and you are not putting resources and, helping fill gaps where you see them, in helping change and make your community a safer community. Because that's, when you talk about public safety, that's a public safety issue, right? So I can either keep investing in officers that show up to those calls, or I can start investing dollars in programs to help close that gap to get women and girls out of that situation. So the cops are not responding to that many domestic violence calls, right?
I have so much to say about this. Yeah, go on. My questions are like boiling up right now.
I mean,
wait, before we talk about the domestic violence and all of that, about the menstrual leave, I want to tell people, this is a real thing. Some women can't even leave the house the first 2 or 3 days because they have heavy flows.
Right.
We're talking about it. We're out and open. This is an open conversation. It's so important because they can't leave. It's very uncomfortable. Just everything. So if that does pass one day, or it's so beneficial for women everywhere, because not a lot of women can share that fact that my flow is so heavy the first 3 days, I can't go to work, and it's so real. So I just want to share that.
And sometimes it's all like we've all been there, right?
Of
like
course.
Sometimes it's not. And that's why I'm saying that it's not necessarily that. Maybe it's you working remotely.
Yes,
right? Like I can do it off my couch. But
absolutely, but I'm safe. I'm in my comfort zone.
Right.
I don't have to feel embarrassed when I go to work for accidents to happen. We've all been there.
Well, I have a great one on that too.
Yeah, good. So, I think we have a lot of great things today. This is going to be a fun
this is what I mean, that like diversity matters in representation.
That.
So the first time I go to the restroom, behind the chambers, I noticed that there are no pads and tampons in the bathroom. I'm like, that's kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
But then I also realized that technically, aside, like, because commissioners can too, but there's never been possibly a council member that's needed to, right? So I went to staff and I said, why do we not have this in any of our restrooms? And they're like, oh no, we don't. And I was like, well, I mean, it's a no-brainer that we should, right? Just across City Hall. So, and I remember one of the staff members like, well, if you need one, like we have a secret stash. And she used the word secret. I was like, the days of secret stashes are done. What do you mean like secret stash? And it's not for me. I'm not looking for me. I'm just looking for somebody that's using the restroom and needs it in that moment.
Accidents.
So they agreed that they're going to do this. And then they put those boxes.
Yeah, with the quarter. Was it free or was it quarter?
Okay. This is my favorite part. And I think our city manager is gonna like, but so I go in, I'm excited, and then I see it's a quarter.
I didn't even, oh my God.
So,
good.
So I go into our city manager's office.
Rubik?
Poor Rubik. Like, sometimes I feel bad. But, you know, I mean, like, I have that.
Shout out to Rubik.
Yes, he is. So poor Rubik's on the phone. And I was like, hey. He's like, what? So he puts the person on. I'll never forget this. He puts the thing, and sometimes this is what I mean. Sometimes you fight. Sometimes you joke.
Yeah.
Right. And like, there's different ways to go about it. So I was like, hey, do you have a quarter? Do you have a quarter? And then he's like he doesn't know why I'm asking. So he's like looking in his pockets for a quarter, and like trying to see if he has one before he can even find one or not.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't need a quarter, but you know who needs a quarter? Everyone that goes into that bathroom. Who has quarters these days, right? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, the boxes that they put in there require quarters. And I'm like, okay, you know what? You guys have like until the next meeting to unlock all of these and make them free and put free stickers on there that says it's free. Like, or I'm gonna bring it up at the dais, you know. Meetings. But and so like, you know, they're the quarter things. Yeah, they're free. You don't need a quarter. I wonder what brand it is. But those are like, oh, so then I flip it and it's the cardboard ones.
It is, which come on, they're not the best.
I'm like, look, it's probably, and this is what drives me crazy about government or like when you talk about policies, but not the implementation of a policy, right?
Yeah.
And my gut's telling me it has nothing to do with price. It's just there was some contract somewhere that was like using that and no one really like thought through to see like what the other options are.
Of course.
And probably never asked. Yeah. Because, you know, anyone I know us knows that cardboard thing is like drives you up the wall, right? But so, but anyway, but those are the things that like, you know, I mean, here we are talking about that, but but I also approach that with the same vigor when we're talking about affordable housing or people with disabilities. I'm really, really proud that, you know, I was the first council member and during my time as mayor to recognize Disabilities Awareness Month and invite the organizations that do incredible work there because, you know, families are going through a lot with that.
I'm sorry, there's a fly.
But no one really talks about that, right? And as government, aside from like what your ADA compliance requirements are, there's so much more we can be doing for programming for families. And all of us know somebody that has a family member, or we have a family member that has some sort of special need or disability, you know, whether it's kids with autism that apparently couldn't use our parks because so you know, I had a couple of parents that approached saying they have, you know, kids with autism, that none of our parks in Glendale have not just the fence, but I guess it requires a door that has a latch. So I don't know this, right? And neither do any of my colleagues. And then I said, well, this is really important to me. And so apparently they take their kids to some parks in LA that have that.
They drive all the way out of Glendale,
you know, but,
and stuff.
I mean, think about, you know, if you are a family that lives in an apartment, don't have a backyard, can't take your kids to, like, where is this kid getting outdoor activity? Right? Because kids with autism tend to like elope real quick. So it's a safety issue. And so, you know, I raised it on the dais for us to look at, like, at least having 1 or 2 parks in our city that have that amenity. We agreed that we're going to explore Maple Park because it already has an all-inclusive playground. So it's kind of like the perfect place for us to do that. And so we're kind of moving through that. So, but you know, I say this with the same thing as I have no problem standing on my own when I don't agree with something. Or even, you know, introducing things like the Sister Cities initiative for it to actually have teeth and programming. So it doesn't just exist on paper. And I love what you guys have done with the committee. And like, my heart was like so happy to see, you know, initially when I introduced that, I just wanted it to get off paper for us to have actual relationships with our, you know,
Sister City, Japan,
and Kapan, and, you know, the sister cities in Osaka and so forth. So, but what has now come out of that is also I see a group of people from completely different backgrounds who now share culture, and that is the most beautiful way to unify a city, right? And the kind of programming you guys will be coming out with, whether it's celebrating cultures and introducing, like, I want a tequila festival, just like I want a Guinea Fest, you know, why not?
Palmyra,
you know,
let's do it.
You know, so yeah, I mean, you know, I know that, for example, Stepan Partamyan is bringing together the first Glendale Art Show that's going to be on the street, and I had brought forth, that I would love for our sister cities to have art from artists from our sister cities also be on display. It's how you integrate these things into things that are already, you know, in motion, or opportunities to create new space for collaboration. Because I see all of those things, whether it's like Bartava or Tzakazar, you've seen me fight for these events on the dais. I think the city has a responsibility to be partners in these things, because they're great community, like putting together family-friendly events or where people can hang out, connect. It's great for your mental health.
Right.
It's great for community building. It lets other cultures learn about your culture and vice versa. All of these are wonderful things. And I would say that in someone's like hardest moment, because everybody's going through something, right? You know, having 1 or 2 hours where they show up at the local park with their kids for free to do some activity and listen to music and what, I mean, what better therapy?
Right. I was just going to say, and free of charge. So,
and free of charge.
Which for families, imagine juggling so many children.
Right.
Times are tough, all of that. So to have places like that to go and socialize and eat ice cream or whatever it is, it's a huge, huge change for them throughout the day.
It's an opportunity for our small businesses to also
showcase, have tables.
And, you know, it's all around like great stuff, you know, and why not?
You know, as far as the Glendale Sister City Committee and your involvement and all of that, we're so grateful for you, because like you know, you kind of, you woke it up again, as they say. Like you said, it was already in kind of motion, but you know, you pushed it, and we're so excited. I'm very honored to be the chair of the Sister City Committee, and you know, working with Ani, the program coordinator, and everyone. We have such a great team, and we will be at Stepan's Festival, April 19th. We'll have a table there with different types of artwork from our sister cities. So I think it's our first actually official event that we're doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
okay. I'm hoping that we expand on the Unity Fest, and I think that even came from, you know, aside from my involvement with Kapan back in 2009 and so forth. When I became mayor, we were supposed to visit the different cities. I was like, hey, can I get the notes on like what the previous mayor agreed to, what we've done? And there was no record of anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what is this? It's just, you know, I don't want it to exist on paper, and there's great opportunities for trade, for collaboration. And I think all of that stuff also comes from my like experience in like building on the broader scale, right? On a grander scale, and bringing that kind of vision to our city.
Louisa Live. Louisa Live.
I want to talk a lot about your campaign and the future of Glendale very soon, but you said something that I want to touch on about domestic violence.
Yes.
And women who are in situations currently, right now, even watching or at home. And you've shared about your past and all of that. You know, you learned so much about yourself from all those experiences. If a young girl is watching you right now, what do you want to share with her? Maybe she wants to ask for help. She doesn't want to share.
Sure.
Our responsibility is having a platform and all of that.
Of course. So, I mean, I will say that I have never been in a domestic violence situation myself, right? But I think because I was brought up in a very loving home that I call like one in a million, for me, my passion for domestic violence or any like kind of like injustice that I see really stems from like it's a shock to my system because my expectation is like really high when it comes to this, right? So what I will say is it is always better to leave. And there are resources available, whether it's our YWCA, that's available 24/7. Whether it is, you can stop by any of our fire stations. We now have a partnership with YWCA. At any day, any moment, you can stop by any of our fire stations. Our firefighters will connect you with the right resources. If you think that you can't afford it financially, if you think you need an attorney, if you think you need public safety, if you think you don't have the mechanism to stand on your own feet, I'm telling you, all of those resources are available.
Wow.
And those are not reasons why you should ever stay in that situation. I think one of the most heartwarming things for me has been because I post a lot about domestic violence and I'll post about our like resources that are available. Just every time I post, there's at least a couple of women that reach out saying, oh, thank you. I didn't know. Maybe I'll, hold their hand through the process to connect.
Wow.
And then just, they always stay in touch. And it always makes me very, very emotional because like to see them free from that and to see them like, whether it's for them or for their children, to be standing on their own 2 feet without living that on a daily basis is, I think, the most rewarding thing that I could possibly see, right? And I think it makes me really, really sad that we have that. I know it's
very sad.
Yeah, so it's it's a very empowering thing. You okay?
Yeah, because you see so many women stuck in bad situations, and God forbid we haven't been in those, but when you know someone and they can't leave, it's awful.
Well, 1 in 3 women.
Yeah.
Right? Like we talk about that. 1 in 3 women will be assaulted in their lifetime.
Wow.
Which is an insane number. So but there is like, so I mean, I would leave it to like, the help is there. There are people that believe in you, and
you're not alone. There's resources.
Yeah, there's resources. There's shelters. There's like housing. You don't need to go stay at like a shelter. We have free hotel vouchers. We have, we have women that have shown up to our police department in the middle of the night with their kids, and our even if it's 3 a.m, we will put you up. And we will, and it's not just put you up, but also help you get the job, help you set up. I mean, I've dealt with women that have, they were also financially stripped from like their, partner or husband or whatnot.
They can't leave because they're stuck. Yeah.
And look, while I have not been in a physical or whatnot, look, I was also married, right? Like, I don't think there's, when, I caught my ex-husband cheating. I know I would never be like forgiving of that. Never really fought with him over that or whatnot, but I actually hugged him and wished him well, which is kind of wild. That's a whole other like
topic. That's a second conversation. You gotta come back.
But what I will say is, he taking the advice of like people around him, literally cleaned out our bank accounts, took my name off of all the cards, and I needed to like wait until my next paycheck to figure out what I'm paying and what I'm not. And, I was somebody that's worked since I was 16 years old, and very like self-sufficient. But, I mean, I never took those moments as like, what am I, there were days I'm like, okay, well, am I going to have money for my utility bill? Right? Like, am I going to, and so I think I'm also very empathetic to that because, I also come from a place of like, yes, I stand on my own 2 feet and have from like, but there were periods in my life where I also had to like build back up again. Right. And I have never seen myself as a victim of anything, right? But those experiences also shape you in recognizing where systems can fail you or fail your like the people that you're representing, right? And while I've always had the self-confidence that I've never been in a place where I doubt myself, which is I think that comes from my like family upbringing or what my parents have been to us. But with that also comes like, how do I help empower others to not, we were talking about authenticity and just living. I mean, I have friends that, divorced and went through their own struggles, have children, are struggling with the dynamics between their ex-husband or their ex-wife. And again, I will say that the beauty of this world is that you're not alone. There's a lot of resources available, and there's a lot of people that are cheering for you. Find your own people. Sometimes I don't know, like I've never had friendships that have drama. I don't have drama in my family. I don't have, and I live off of that energy. So it's really important who you surround yourself with. And sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away. So if it's not serving you, I've always said like these things are, number one, you make yourself happy, right? And that also requires for you to be very self-conscious and self-aware of how you can improve. I'm very big on self-improvement and recognizing that none of us are perfect, but also, who you allow in your space and what kind of energies you allow into your life. And, I've had to let go of some of the greatest friendships that I considered because I also can't operate in a place where it's heavy or questioned
toxic.
And so and people, you have to also recognize that people change over time, right? And people are driven by different things. I've never been driven by money. I'm driven by impact, right? And I have no problem living in a condo that's from the 1970s. Those are not the things that I put importance on. I put importance on life experiences, right? But you asked earlier about having done so much. I had an incident where I thought I was taking my last breath on the Colorado River. I got sucked into a whirlpool. It threw me out 30 minutes out into middle of nowhere, and I couldn't move my body. It was one of those Titanic moments where Kate's it was literally like that.
I have goosebumps
and so my life flashed before my eyes, and then just things that I didn't even remember, and all I can remember in that last second before I closed my eyes was Louisa, I was so happy and so at peace with the life I had lived. And a lot of people, when they go through something like that, they come out of that wanting to change, right? All of a sudden. And I walked away from that wanting to hold on to that. And sometimes when people are like, why are you fighting so hard? Why? It's me saying I don't know if I'm going to get hit by a bus tomorrow. And I'm holding on to that feeling that I had on that river, that there was nobody that I had loved that didn't know that I loved them. If I didn't care for you, then you knew that. Everyone knew where they stood. I had no words left unsaid. And both in how involved I was and the impact of my work in my community to my personal relationships. And, we talk about the 3-4 hours. I'm the person that will, it'll be midnight and I've had a whole day, and I'll text a friend and be like, hey, let's go grab a drink for an hour. Right? I squeeze things in. I don't, for me, that balance is really important to have a social life. I think elected officials are one of the some of the loneliest people I have ever met, because the job takes a lot. And I think because I was campaign consultant, campaign manager, having seen so much of that, I came into this role wanting to make sure that my life doesn't change in that way. The job requires for you to be on 24/7. The community is expecting you. The amount of meetings you're having, the long hours and all of that. And I came in wanting to make sure that I preserve my friendships, which are very important to me. My family is very important to me. And so you'll find me like 2 a.m. or 1 a.m, like going and hanging out with my friends or
enjoying the nuggets of life because you almost died and that's fueling you every day.
But I've always been that. Like I was like that before, but I think that incident and that accident really, it actually, I think, speaks to my personality. So they found me down the river. They, brought me back to the boat, pumped the water out of me.
Oh my God.
And then I had a concussion.
Wow.
But that night I had tickets to a Norah Jones concert at the Red Rocks.
You can't miss.
And I still went. So like that, like, and it's interesting because I think the way that I even shielded what I was feeling, the friend that I was with, because it was, with the group, when we got back to the hotel, she was pulling up like YouTube videos of people that had died in that spot. Apparently that the water there like goes up really like high, really quick, zone. Whatever. I had no idea. We like did it through a company. Yeah. It was my first time whitewater rafting. And when she turned it on, I got very upset and said, like, can you turn that off? And I think she hadn't even realized what had just occurred to me because I was so like la-di-da after, right? And then that night I went to the Red Rocks and enjoyed a wonderful Norah Jones concert. But I think that speaks to just how I live life in general. I love life. I love everything in it. And so
you love life. You love Glendale.
I love Glendale.
You love serving to Glendale
I'm so
girls.
competitive with Glendale. It's kind of amazing
You are.
Especially when like I'm in spaces where the other cities are there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like, best city in the nation.
I know. And what made you want to serve Glendale again? Let's talk about your campaign coming up and the future of Glendale for you. And there's so much to talk about Glendale because we love Glendale. We're Glendale girls.
Yeah.
But you're at a very busy time right now. You're campaigning. Elections are June 2nd, on my birthday, by the way. Gemini Day. We can talk forever, guys. Clearly, we have the wrap like in 10 minutes, so we're good.
Okay,
let's do it.
Well, I mean, look, my first race wasn't easy either. Yeah. But this is a very heavy and cramped field. You have 3 spots that are open. There's 12 candidates. There's also efforts in recruiting people to try to chip away at me. And it's not necessarily to get those people elected, but it's to make sure that they're chipping away enough at me so I don't get reelected. So, look, I also recognize that being the first, we always talk about how it's different and it's challenging and it's people view you differently. And what I'll say to that is, like, especially when it comes for like women and girls or what they expect from an elected leader, there's nobody in this race that has more experience than me. Nobody. Even the ones that are 65, 70 years old. I will double down on that every single day. Not just in policy and advocacy, but the work in this community, in Glendale, on the state level, just on the executive side, there isn't. Wow. And so, I think having that kind of background is really, really important because Glendale at the end of the day is the 4th largest city in LA County and it's a regional connector city. So when we talk about trade and when we talk about small business, I would hope that the residents and small businesses don't want somebody that's just going to be a rubber stamp for staff, that they can elect people that understand what it means to be an elected leader in policy making and the impacts of those policies and the implementation part of those policies that are impacting your daily life. You can talk about national politics all you want, but the decisions that are made on the local level impact your daily life the most. right? And there is something about having somebody that is thoughtful in approach to policy making where, look, one day I will be a champion for environmental issues, as an example. The next, I'm the one that's stopping a plastic ban for restaurants, which I've done, for that are going to impact our restaurants because, you know, the price difference between a biodegradable product and the plastic is so significant that I'm not going to put that burden on the restaurant, right? Or having the knowledge and the background in as a small business owner to know what kind of resources are missing, and as a community organizer recognizing that there's so many gaps when you're dealing with an immigrant community, right? We also give like thousands of contracts away as a city, and I want my local businesses to be the ones that benefit. The current system isn't set up as such. It continues to reward those that have gotten it in the past. And so I'm very big on opening pathways, but you're able to do all those things when you actually know how the internal works, how government works in general, and actually have experience in working in different spaces. So you're not in your little like Glendale bubble of what you've seen in Glendale, but I can point to like, hey, there was this program in Denver that worked really great for their small businesses, or there was this affordability program initiative in, I don't know, Seattle that moved the needle for this community, right? So, and then having my background in advocacy and public affairs, how we communicate as government is really important. And I attribute, like, I was mayor during the wildfires.
You were. You were so calm, by the way.
Well, that comes from experience.
You were so calm. I was having a panic attack. Everyone was. But you were so calm.
But I think that's what's required of a leader.
I know.
I could have been theatrical. Yeah. I don't know if you noticed, but I purposely did not use a podium during the wildfires. Yeah. I purposely went and I either spoke to the camera, like just human to human. And, I had made sure that we had put alerts out on all the platforms. And even if it was like 4 a.m. and there was some like noise coming out, like, well, what is this fire behind this mountain? Like, I just went on, casually said, hey, this is what that fire is, just to keep information flowing and for the city to be, and for me to be the source of information versus, especially nowadays with social media, everyone like wakes up and like puts whatever they want. And the minute that misinformation is out, you have already lost the battle because wheeling that in is very difficult. And so I think me being both like, having a communications background and, public affairs, the reason I ran the communications the way I ran during my mayorship was because I recognized that I needed to do it in Armenian. I needed it to be a calm voice, but also, I'll give you an example. I saw some other mayors, like they would do press conferences that looked official. People are looking for comfort and information in that moment. They're not looking for theatrics. At least that's how I see it. And sometimes when I would watch some of the other elected officials that would open up their press conferences, like the regular, our number one concern is, lives and property. Well, we already know that.
Yeah.
Just get to the meat of it, right? Like speak to the heart of it, give your community information that they need, depending on the situation that is at play in that moment, and give it more often, and break down things. I even started talking about how many trees we needed to save that day or whatnot, because I wanted people to understand that, because Glendale, while we didn't have fires in Glendale, we had a lot of damage, infrastructure damage, right? And when people weren't seeing the fire inside the city, they were like, well, why are the streets dirty at this moment? I'm like, it's literally raining ash. Like you can't, and the amount of infrastructure damage and trees and whatnot that were destroyed. We had one street that I think there was like 6 electric poles that just crashed, like it broke in half. Right? Like those are infrastructure damages that are not like, you can't fix them in like 2 minutes and have power back up again. So,
and that's what you did for us. You posted so regularly, by the way, in Armenian and English, which I loved. I even DM'd you. I'm like, oh my God, I live on the street, Ellen. Like, should I take my mom and dad to this? I think it was one of the schools. It was a church. I was completely panic mode, and you were the voice of reason, the calm. I'm just telling you, as someone, as an authentic friend and follower, you were always posting, and you were so informative. And for the elder community, the grandmas, the grandpas that don't know how to read English, I love how your posts were also in Armenian. I'm telling you, like, I have goosebumps right now because it was so
part
true.
of that, when we went into declaring emergency. I sent a message because I do this for like every Tuesday anyway on every item. I sent a message to staff saying everything we put out from the city needs to be in English, Armenian, Spanish, Korean, and any of the other languages. I'm like, and I don't want to repeat this again. Because
just
just
do it. Damn it.
let's just operate that like nothing comes out only in English, right? Because and this speaks to just communication in general as a government, right? If I think that attributed to the calm that was, because how's your community members supposed to follow what you're telling them if they can't understand what you're saying, right? And while you might have seen me on Instagram and so forth, but I also made sure that I was doing interviews on TV.
You were
on the different channels and so forth, because those serve different demographics, right? And then asking our nonprofits and our groups to share our information. So we're not just using our platforms, but we were utilizing community organizations and their platforms to get our message out. And so all of those things like make for a safer city. It makes for a more united city. And while there will always be disagreements, I always laugh when they're like, well, she did. I'm like, well, no two people can agree 100% of the time.
Right.
We talked long enough. We'll figure out what 1, 2, 5, 10, 15 things that we don't have in common, we don't agree on, right? But to have that kind of expectation from your elected official is also kind of, I mean, you are basically setting me up to fail.
Yeah.
Because I don't have that with my best friend. I don't have that with my family. No one has that. So,
Ellen, you and me could talk forever. Right. You know that. And my producers are probably like, hurry up, Louisa. Right. So 2 more minutes. Before I ask the last 2 questions that I ask every guest, what do you think Glendale needs now? I know that's a loaded question, but just to kind of sum it up, you're such a Glendale girl. You love Glendale, even though you came to the States at 10 years old and got welcomed into Glendale. Glendale is a feeling, I think, for us.
It is,
Glendale is home. It is what it is. What do you think Glendale needs?
Look, I would say number 1 on my mind right now is affordability.
Affordability.
Across the board, affordability.
Housing, everything.
Housing, type of housing, affordability with utility rates. I will say that I'm the only council member that did not support the COSA, which led to the rate increases. I'm also the only council member that voted against the last budget because it was cutting into public safety, it was cutting into permitting, and it was cutting into communication. And I had said from day one, and it was investing $0 for women and girls programming. So I had said from day one, if these are things you guys are looking to cut, I think cuts are a lazy way of doing budgeting. You should be looking at revenue generation. But for me, affordability is at the top of my mind. I would definitely say just the permitting process is an absolute nightmare. We've gotten better. We've made a lot of changes in the last 3.5 years, but there's like so many codes and cleanups that need to be done that it's not something that like you'll see overnight. And I've been very, very adamant about that because I say that because that impacts our small businesses and our mom and pops, how fast they open their doors. And it just breaks my heart when I hear something's taking long because that person's paying rent at that moment when they're waiting for a permit, and it can be the difference between someone actually not even, opening their doors and thriving, or not even being able to open their door because they don't have any more money to pour in to a rent while waiting for permits, right? So, and the way that we communicate out, I'm very mindful of. I'm proud that we created mental health partnership with
Glendale Adventist.
Gateway hospitals that just came into. We launched a substance abuse program through our police department. There's, these are things that we don't talk about that exist within our community and communities in general. And there is, I think as part of government, we have to be a source of resource for all of those things that make for healthier communities, and the kind of programming we're supporting to make it fun. I have a sign on my door that says "Fun is good" because I'm always.
That's funny you talk about signs, because my next question is, if you had your, well, thank you for all that. By the way, love you. Thank you. If you had your own billboard on Sunset Boulevard. And you had
on Glendale Boulevard.
Actually, wait, Glendale Boulevard. This is the tailored question.
I know.
Glendale Boulevard. What would it say? Any message?
Be kind. I think that's my. Be kind and have fun.
I love that. Be kind and have fun.
Yeah.
And what have you purchased under $100 that changed your life? Something simple, but just you love, and
So it's this ring.
Oh.
It's definitely under $100. It's
you wear it a lot.
I wear it a lot. It's an antique button.
Oh, let me see.
And it's a woman.
Oh, I love
helping another woman to put her apron on.
Oh.
But it's always like, sometimes if you see me like holding on to the ring. And then like just kind of going nuts on the dais.
You're like rubbing it and like.
It's like no. But it's like, it's by purpose.
It's kind of like a woman fixes a woman's crown.
Yeah.
It's like you're tying the apron. Yeah. Like, I love that.
Yeah. So I think that has a huge impact. So
beautiful.
And awesome. You'll see me, like, I actually use jewelry a lot. Like, this is my late grandma's watch, and then the pearl necklace I wear is something that was given by my dad and his family to my mom on their engagement. So I use jewelry as having like my family and people that I love. Meher gave me these.
Oh, I love that. Shout out to Meher. Yeah, beautiful. Those are nice statements. As you can tell, we love our gold statement earrings.
But like, I carry people and their energies with me.
And their stories. And it's expressive for you.
So
amazing.
In my jewelry and things that I wear. But thank you for having me. And
thank you, Ellen John. I mean, this was seriously such a great conversation.
I made you cry.
Yeah, you did. It was just, I think those make, when you're so authentic with someone, it's just so natural.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me, and good luck.
Me. You too. Thank you.
Louisa Live. Louisa Live.